Vigilant Church of God presents Michael H. Venish, bringing you the plain truth about the armor of God. And now, Michael Venish.
Greetings, brethren. As I mentioned, I was going to begin a series of video Bible studies in sermonette format of the armor of God. That series begins with this video. Turn with me to Exodus chapter 14 and verse 10. Exodus 14. Here we have a dramatic display of God's power and willingness to protect his people. It occurred soon after Israel had left Egypt, and they were encamped by the Red Sea at this time. Well, let's go back to Exodus 14 and beginning verse 5. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and captains over every one of them. And the Eternal hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand. Yes, you can imagine it, brethren. Israel was so excited, so thrilled that they were not in bondage anymore. They'd left Egypt. With a high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and the chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and they overtook them encamping by the sea besides Pi-hahiroth, before Baal-zephon. Now, brethren, notice Israel's reaction in verse 10. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. That is, vehemently, they were utterly afraid. And the children of Israel cried unto the Eternal. And in Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 9 we are told God heard their cry. And he saw the affliction of our fathers in Egypt, and heard their cry by the Red Sea. Notice Psalm 106 and verse 43. That's Psalm 106 verse 43. Many times did he deliver them, but they provoked him with their counsel, and were brought low for their iniquity. Verse 44. Nevertheless he regarded their affliction when he heard their cry. And brethren of God, we can be comforted by this, knowing God will hear our cry. Please turn with me to Psalm 34. Psalm 34 and verse 17. It says, "The righteous cry, and the Eternal hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Eternal is near unto them that are of a broken heart, and saves such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Eternal delivers him out of them all." So, brethren, what we see in this Psalm 34, we are told here, there needs to be a humble spirit in us, one that is willing to be submissive and willing to be entreated by God. Notice Isaiah 57 and verse 15. That's Isaiah 57 and verse 15. "For thus says the high and lofty one that inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the contrite ones." So, dear brethren, there has to be a humble attitude of mind on our part. Now back to Exodus chapter 14, and let us look at what Moses said to Israel in their fear. Verse 13 of Exodus 14. "And Moses said unto the people, Fear you not, stand still and see the salvation of the Eternal God, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever." In this verse, brethren, Moses tells Israel to stand. He literally means to stand still. He literally means stand erect. Don't allow anything to change your mind. Don't fear. Stand erect. Don't crouch in fear of those Egyptians. God, our great God, was going to reveal His power of protection to them in a very dramatic way. And brethren, we know this, that soon after that, God told Moses to tell the people to move forward as they did, and move forward through the opening as He opened the Red Sea. And of course it took all night, but eventually the sea was opened and the people went through. Think for a moment. Think just for a moment, brethren. This was physical Israel. They had rejoiced in leaving Egypt. But soon thereafter, they were faced with a terrible trial. A terrible trial. The Egyptian army was on its way to slaughter some of them and to return the rest to Egypt, back into slavery. All of God's former miracles were forgotten. Even the wealth willingly given to them by the Egyptians for holding them in slavery, forgotten. They were in a state of absolute dread, of fear for life. Moses said, stand still and see the salvation of God. Brethren, in this age of Laodicea, where we see disunity, where we see lies, where we see doctrinal changes, where we see unordained men posing as ministers of Christ, we must stand without fear and see the salvation of God. Notice 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 13. 1 Corinthians 16 and verse 13. Watch you, Paul says, watch you, stand fast in the faith. Quit you like men, be strong. Yes, be strong. Quit you like men, be like men. And ladies, be like converted, faithful ladies. Stand firm and persevere in the faith. Persevere in that faith that was once delivered. Jesus Christ did that, brethren, against a powerful opposer. Turn to Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 to 11. Matthew 4 verse 1. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward a-hungered. And you can imagine that, brethren. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if you be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Then the devil takes him up into the holy city and sets him up on a pinnacle of the temple and says unto him, if you be the Son of God, cast yourself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you dash your foot against the stone. Jesus said unto him, it is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. And again the devil takes him up into an exceeding high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and says unto him, all these I will give unto you. I will give them unto you, the devil says, if you will fall down and worship me. Can you imagine that? The devil telling Jesus Christ he will give him all those kingdoms of the world. And of course this verse, brethren, proves that Satan is the god of this world. Because then Jesus said unto him, get you hence, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Yes, Jesus didn't say to him, it's not yours to give. Then the devil leaves him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto Jesus Christ. Dear brethren, we need to understand something of this age. Of this age, brethren, the tempter will do his utmost to get you to sleep. That is, remain in a Laodicean frame of mind. He knows when Laodicea goes into the tribulation, it's going to be difficult to obey God without losing your life. Remember, 50% of those in tribulation lose their salvation. Paul encourages us in Romans chapter 13 and verse 11 to remember the time we are in. And he says in verse 11, and knowing the time that it is now high time to wake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. It's time to wake up out of a Laodicean attitude, brethren. And Paul continues, he says, the night, the time for sleeping, is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on, let us literally sink into the armor of light. So, brethren, let us begin to see this armor of light as described by Paul. We have seen from Israel's example that we need to cast off fear. We need to stand firm in the faith. We need to resist the opposer and put on the armor of light. We are told in Ephesians 6 and verse 11, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Yes, my dear brethren, the next video, we will begin to discuss the armor of God and how it protects us.